All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 182 of Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports. It is May the 28th, 2025. I'm Nikolai from a surprisingly cool Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomazelli. Gus, please tell me that in Americana you guys actually are seeing the sun because it's been cloudy and rainy here for, it feels like forever.
Oh yeah, we've seen the sun, but today was actually surprisingly um windy and cloudy, and it might rain. And I bet the temperature right now in Americana uh, and Chattanooga it might be the almost the same.
Right. Yeah.
I bet. Oh, Chattanooga is 4 degrees higher, so basically, kind of the same temperature basically right now in both of our cities.
Right. But the temperature that is rising is postseason sports across the board. Obviously, here in America, it is championship time. So many trophies about to be handed out. And obviously, right now, we have two games ongoing here in the United States. One of those is just an absolute beatdown. The Oklahoma City Thunder up 75 to 43 on the Minnesota Timberwolves as they are just about a quarter and a half away from officially winning the Western Conference and going to the NBA Finals. Additionally, the Florida Panthers are up 3-2 over the Carolina Hurricanes as they are a period away themselves from going to the Stanley Cup Finals. So let's start with the NBA playoffs here. Of course, the Thunder are up by 30 now. Unless a miracle happens, they're going to win tonight and clinch the Western Conference. And was there really anything differently that Minnesota could have done in this series? Because to me, it just seemed to me that they were outgunned, outmanned, outmatched here. Anthony Edwards did not play well in Game 4, in a game that Minnesota absolutely had to have if they were going to have any shot of winning this series in terms of trying to even this thing up. And tonight it's just not going well at all for Minnesota.
Yeah, that game 4 was probably what decided the series if Oklahoma clinches tonight, because that was the chance. That was the ultimate chance. It was 2-1, and you know in the sports momentum changes everything. Like we're gonna talk about, because it feels like the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference final feels like the same. Feels like the same script of the Indiana and Oklahoma City dominating the first two games. Losing game 3 and then dominating game 4.
Oh, for sure. And it's kind of weird because you say it's similar, but to me, it really doesn't feel similar, right? Because like Minnesota, for sure, just felt completely outclassed. I don't know if I can say the same about New York. And here is Jason Wyrick. And Jason, we're definitely going to get into, I know, what you want to talk about here momentarily. But just to kind of, I guess, wrap up this Minnesota, of course, Oklahoma up by 28 right now. Um, yeah, just Oklahoma City was the better team here. Just they were more complete, top to bottom. SGA right now he's playing up to his potential here in this postseason. Anthony Edwards tonight is 6 of 15 shooting, 1 of 7 from three, and minus 23 in the plus and minus statistics. That like they needed him to be perfect if they were going to win this series, and it just isn't going to happen for Minnesota. And for Minnesota, too, this is their second straight year losing in the Western Conference Finals. They lost to Dallas last year. You have to wonder, when you look back at their franchise history, back to when they had Kevin Garnett, they couldn't make it to the NBA Finals back then either. And it just seems, for Minnesota, you have to wonder if for those fans, do they feel like they've hit a ceiling? I mean, Minnesota fans in general, right? Like the Vikings have never won the Super Bowl. It's been since the early 90s when it comes to the Twins. The Wild have never really won much of anything. Like Minnesota is, or Minneapolis, St. Paul is truly and honestly probably the most cursed city in American sports.
I don't know about that. I mean, what? Okay, who are the competitors for the most cursed city? Because I guess Minnesota has as good a shout as any. I was going to say Cleveland, but the Cavs won a championship like 10 years ago.
I mean, Buffalo's never won anything, but they only have the Bills and the Sabres.
I mean, I don't know, man. Winning 4 straight AFCs and then losing 4 straight Super Bowls. On one hand, the success is great, but on the other hand, just not being able to get over the hump at least once.
Right. Like, I mean, Nashville never won anything, but like literally Nashville just started having pro sports 25 years ago. So that doesn't count.
I don't know. I started by downplaying Minneapolis, but the Twins have never won anything. The Timberwolves have never really won anything. The Vikings haven't been relevant in like 20 years. And let's see, who am I missing? The Wild have never really won anything, and before that, the North Stars never really won anything either. You may have a case.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, it's been brutal. Because, like, I mean, it's not even like the Vikings have been irrelevant. The Vikings have had several really, really good teams that come up short, like, especially the Brett Favre Minnesota team. Like, that to me has to be, if I were a Minnesota fan, that would be the most painful one. Because
But
that team should have won a championship, I think.
no, I think the 1999 NFC Championship, that was brutal. I mean, even there were reference on the pop culture, on How I Met Your Mother's reference, how they were one field goal away from going to the Super Bowl, and the kicker who was a superstar all season lost the kick, and then Atlanta ended up winning. I feel like that was painful.
No, that sounds familiar.
Right. I mean, and literally, Moore Anderson that year was like literally perfect. That year, I believe in that he was perfect until he missed that field goal in the postseason. So that, and of course, you had the bounty gate as well that they were victims of. Of course, I don't know how Vikings Colts would have gone because I mean,
the Colts would have mopped the floor with anybody from the NFC if the Saints didn't get the onside too. The Colts were mopping the floor with the Saints at halftime. The Colts were the way better team, but the onside kick won the game for New Orleans, and it is what it is.
Yeah, but on the other side of this, Oklahoma City obviously they've cruised through the Western. Well, I've not cruised, but they were taken to 7 by the Denver Nuggets, who gave them by far the most tough series because they swept Grizzlies in the first round. And to me, I've had questions about like, is Oklahoma City ready to make that next jump? And they've answered the bell at least so far in the Western Conference. But
I'm not sure they are. I mean, I get that they've come through the Western Conference, but the Nuggets are not the same Nuggets that won the championship. They're not. The Nuggets are still good because they have Jokic, but that's it. They're fine, but he is the reason that they're still that good. Mm-hmm. They don't have the same core. They don't have the same coach. They are who they are.
Absolutely. I also want to shout out.
I don't think that Oklahoma City is as good as people think they are. I think they have some tremendous talent, but they are pretty well new to playoff basketball. And I just think that the Western Conference didn't give them as big of tests as theoretically the Pacers would should the Pacers close out. And now, I'm not saying that I'm going to predict the Pacers to win the finals, but I think that will be their first true test. And I've made this comparison before, but I think Oklahoma City is just better Cleveland. They are the same type of team as the Cavs. They are making their first big run, but when they run into a team that's very disciplined and has a really good tactician coach like Rick Carlisle, the coach of the Thunder is only in like his 4th season. He's been a D-League coach. And even then, he's only having his like 2nd season of success. They are good, but I'm not sure they are ready for I don't know that they are ready for the coaching that, a potential matchup against Rick Carlisle will bring them. And I'm not sure if they're ready for their intensity and their speed to be matched, because they have just run everybody out of the gym. But the Pacers can match that both ways. And again, I'm not necessarily picking the Pacers to beat them, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think.
Yeah, because like the discourse I'm seeing is people like, "Oh, this is gonna be the most boring finals ever. The Thunder are gonna sweep." I'm like, have you people watched the Indiana Pacers? Like the Pacers Knicks series.
No, no, they haven't. And if you know, you know. But Roy, about 10 years ago or 12, Roy Hibbert went on a press conference and said, "Y'all MFs don't watch us play," and that still rings true. Nobody watches the Pacers. The Pacers don't have a superstar that everybody likes to watch, and NBA fans are the worst about this. If you don't have a superstar that everybody likes, nobody gives a shit about your team, and they don't watch you. You don't get put on national TV. You don't get to play on Christmas. You get no national exposure, and it is what it is. I personally, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, Jason, there's an advantage of that because it might be, bring everybody by surprise, and and ended up being a factor of not having the pressure. Give all the pressure to Oklahoma City in sports.
Yeah, it's
That's
exactly how we beat Cleveland. It's the same exact thing. Everybody expected Cleveland to mop the floor with the Pacers, and then the Pacers had a gentleman's sweep. Like, it's really that simple. Gus, you are exactly right. Playing without pressure is the best thing to ever happen to the Indiana Pacers.
Now, I will say this: I do think at points in the second half last night for Indiana, yeah, like I could start feeling at least there was some pressure there of like, don't let the Knicks even this up. But they responded to that call, especially in the second half, very, very well, and played their cleanest half of the entire series in the second half of that game.
Yeah, and it's primarily on the back of Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton played his best half of basketball that I think he's ever played in his life. And the fact that he had a triple double without turning the ball over is incredible. And he was making me mad last night. He was pulling up jump shots in transition. It was infuriating to watch. He pulled up 3 or 4 times. And that was one of the things that cost us in game 3. But ultimately, I'm willing to take that bad with the massive amount of good. And that's where I'm at with Tyrese. He has earned the right to do what he wants because until that burns us and loses us a series or loses us more than one game in particular, where a lot of people had stuff like that happen, where a lot of guys were contributing. Until something like that happens, I have full faith in Tyrese Halliburton to get the job done.
And what it really reminds me of it, I don't know if you've ever watched the 30 for 30 on Loyola and Marymount back in the 90s, like with Hank Gaithers. Um, I know obviously what they did was like crazy, crazy fast, but like the Pacers feel like they're as close as you can reasonably to that pace in the NBA in terms of going quickly.
Yeah, the Pacers run and gun against everybody. It's the identity and the physics. I like to compare them to the Miracle on Ice team. You know how in the movie Miracle, you see all the conditioning and said we may not be the best team, but we'll be the most conditioned. That's the Indiana Pacers right now, because the Pacers, as far as star power goes, probably have the worst of the 4 teams. And in terms of knowledge, ball knowing knowledge, um, in those circles, you probably are thinking the Pacers have probably the third best team behind the Knicks in Oklahoma City. And then, I mean, there's still a case to be made that the Timberwolves have a better roster than the Pacers, but the Pacers do what they do so incredibly well that it doesn't matter. And so with that, boys, I need to go inside. I just got home. I'll hop on the computer. If you guys give me 5 minutes, I'll be right back.
All right, Jason, we'll see you here in just a moment.
it's good.
And
Please join us back.
yeah, and I guess to keep on the track of the NBA here, of course, Oklahoma City up 88-62. I guess let's kind of focus on the Knicks here, right? Like this series, I will say this has been probably the most entertaining playoff series I have watched since the 2016 Cavs and Warriors. I mean, this has just been an absolute just cinema every single game. Intense, fast paced, up and down, which ultimately has played into the hand of the Indiana Pacers. And you really have to go back to game one of this series. The Knicks had a 14-point lead with 2.5 minutes left in the game, 17 points lead with like 6 minutes left, and managed to lose. And they've been kind of behind the eight ball since. Now, they did pull off a miracle comeback win in game three, but, not winning the 50-50 games in game two and game four, like that game one loss, assuming the Knicks don't pull off a 3-1 comeback, is going to forever haunt New York because this at worst should be 2-2 right now, probably. But the fact that they are facing elimination now is because of their inability to finish off that game. And to me, it seemed like they kind of got a little nervous, right? Because you're at Madison Square Garden. It's the first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years. And I think like they tensed up a bit. And plus, Indiana just kept on hitting some just incredible shots. Like the Indiana Pacers hit some of the most clutch shots I've ever seen in my life. Like I don't know how they have this magic, but like how like the Celtics fans have been running around all season talking about like watch out for the Indiana Pacers. They're basically the playoff boogeyman. Well, dude, this is why I mean, Gus, like it feels like honestly the Knicks have played well in this series too. Like it's not like they've been blown out. Like these have all been close competitive games, and they just the ball hasn't gone their way at all.
Yeah, basically that. I think game one definitely was the swing factor of the series, losing a double-digit lead at home, and it felt like Indiana. That game was decisive because if the Knicks, because it's different though. If they lose game two, but winning game one convincingly is one thing. Then you go to Indianapolis, you might take game three or four. But game one was the big the big moment. Like it's like they're coming back to the Eastern Conference Final, as you said, after 25 years. It's time to a statement. We deserve to be here, and Indiana came to New York and said, "We're still better than you. We're still ahead of you."
Yeah, it's like for New York, like as a franchise, it's just a loss that could be like a dangerous loss in terms of kind of puts them back, sets them back. Like the Pacers, they took being swept last year by the Boston Celtics, and they've come back with a vengeance. But do we think that the New York Knicks could do something similar? Because to me, I just don't because we've talked about this last episode about Tom Thibodeau, right? And the way he operates with a short bench, it tends to wear out players more. They're going to come up against a cap set, a cap hit this upcoming offseason. Um, to me, it seems like because I believe you said this last episode in terms of you believe that it was now or never for the Knicks, at least with this current core. And I feel like there's some other teams around the East that are getting better.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
The East is because for a while I remember, especially during the LeBron years, everybody said that the West is loaded and the East is carried by LeBron. Now it doesn't feel like that. Is that the East is having a lot of young and very viable teams. The Cavs were the number one seed, and without LeBron, you have the Milwaukee Bucks that I know they're going through kind of a little turmoil, but they still have one of the best basketball players in the world with
If they keep him though, like they might trade him or he might leave.
yeah. But you have the Pistons coming back. The Celtics are still viable, and in the West you have a lot of question marks. Is the when is until when this Warriors uh, group is going to remain viable, because at some point Steph and Clay are going to choose, say, goodbye to the Warriors or to their
Well, I mean,
careers.
Clay is already in Dallas, so he's already
Yes,
gone. And like,
yes.
I mean, I think the best day of the Warriors are past us. Like the Warriors aren't going to win any more championships with the score. The fact they won a playoff series this year was impressive, and just shows how good that Steph Curry is, even at this point in his career. But like, you're not going to see them win any more championships with the current core. You're going to see them take a step back, and right now in the West, it's OKC, and to me, like Denver, to me is still the second best team in the West, but they have got to figure out how to retool around Nikola Jokic because the team around him is just not as good as it was, and the fact that they fired Michael Malone is, I still don't necessarily agree with that because he did guide them to a championship a couple of years ago. But Jason, to kind of loop you back in on this, to kind of recenter it back to the Pacers, because we were just talking about how we discussed last week how for the Knicks it felt like they had to win it this year if they're going to do it, and now them losing, especially the way that they've lost this series, having a horrendous meltdown in Game 1, and then obviously getting outgunned in Games 2, Game 4, and of course they had to come back themselves in Game 3, which I would argue negates Game 1, but in the 50-50 games at 2 and 4, they weren't able to come out with it either time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks are being exploited right now by the Indiana Pacers, and they're being exploited for one, having a short bench, and it's showing. Like Tom Thibodeau has been playing guys off the end of the bench. You have Landry Shamet, you've got DeLon Wright, you've got Precious Achua, all these different guys. The problem is they haven't played since like March. They don't play. And so, they're coming in and a couple of them are doing okay, but Miles McBride has been playing out of his mind and they still are just hanging in there. Miles McBride is the only player on the Knicks outside of Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson that I think you can reliably count on to score 5 to 10 points. Every other guy could go for 20 or they could just get held to nothing. And you don't have any consistency there. And the Pacers are exploiting that. All the Pacers are doing is waiting for somebody to have the hot hand and then go defend them. That's really it. And so, you can't stop Jalen Brunson. You can slow him down, but, he's going to get his points. And this goes back to the same thing I said before. Same thing with Towns. Towns is a little easier because you can play him small. Brunson is going to get 20 a game, period, at minimum. Good luck. He's just that good. Karl Towns, he has some weaknesses. But even assuming they go for 60, 70, even 80 points a night, where are the other points coming from? And so far, I have not seen anybody with any sort of consistency getting points outside of those two and Miles McBride. OG Anunoby, sure, he's gotten a few here and there, but he's been very inconsistent. Josh Hart's been non-existent in the series. Mikal Bridges has been non-existent in this series. So where are you going from there? And the problem with this Knicks team is the construction of this roster is not conducive to sustainability. This team is all in right now, and they're about to lose to the Pacers. And not only lose, get embarrassed by the Pacers. Because, the comeback in Game 3 was it was very demoralizing for the Pacers. But I would contend that last night's Game 4 loss for the Knicks was even more demoralizing because every time they had a little bit of hope, the Pacers just snuffed it out. The Pacers just clamped down and manufactured some buckets. And I don't think they have an answer for this Pacers team. I think this is it. Tomorrow, I expect this series to be over. And, maybe they take another game at Madison Square Garden, maybe, but it's definitely done by Game 6. I don't see any way that this goes to 7, and I really have a hard time seeing it even go to 6 because the Knicks are wearing down, even playing these guys at the end of the bench. You're still wearing down, and the Pacers just keep chugging along. And Aaron Nesmith was playing hurt, and he was playing the best defense of anybody last night on Jalen Brunson, even playing hurt. And that's not a matchup that the Knicks can win.
Right, and then Pascal Siakam from game 2 on in this series has been
He's been
insane.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam is the most consistent player on this Pacers team. The game 1 thing was an anomaly. And he is the only player in the Pacers half-court offense that can be relied on to score.
I mean, the only player that would I think that would severely annoy me if I were a hardcore Pacers fan like you would be Miles Turner, because to me he takes way too many just stupid shots, like in my view.
I don't know. Like, you take the good with the bad with him because he shoots the 3 ball pretty well. And the thing about it for me is he still has to make the shots. So yeah, he needs to make more, but he makes enough of them that he can draw the defenders out to the perimeter and space the floor for a guy like Ben Mathurin or a guy like Tyrese Halliburton to drive and kick. And that's, even when he misses shots, that's still more important because you got to get those guys out of the lane, because this Pacers offense in the half court does not work at all unless you can drive and kick. And that's the reason that we lost game 3, was we stopped doing that. We slowed the game down and played at the Knicks pace. And that's just, you're not going to win. The Knicks have better players than the Pacers. The Knicks are more talented than the Pacers at the top. And if you play the Knicks pace and don't try to run them out of the gym, you will lose. And it happened in game 3. So Miles Turner is the least of my concerns personally. And it's not to say that your point's invalid, because I agree with you. However, sometimes you just got to take the good with the bad.
Mm-hmm. And I think about the drive and the kick. That's what would concern me heading into a potential finals matchup with the Thunder, right? Because, the Knicks aren't going to outrun you if you miss some freeze because you decided to pull up in transition. The Thunder, on the other hand, you can't be doing that against them and expect
Sure you can. There's nothing saying that you can't. Why can't they? Let's hear it.
I mean, to me at least, like the Thunder one can match the pace, right? Because the Thunder also run. So I mean, Thunder Pacers is going to be insane back and forth. And like we mentioned earlier, there's people like, oh, there's going to be a boring NBA Finals. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. But this is probably going to be one of the most exciting NBA Finals we've ever seen in terms of just play style. Like, I mean, it's going to be up and down, back and forth. I mean, some of the matchups in this, like, I'm trying to think. So, like, SGA, I'm trying to think who will be on him. Probably Siakam. Back and forth. No,
it'll probably be Andrew Nembhard. He'll get a steady dose of Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith. It'll just depend on if he wants to play physically or not. If he doesn't want to play physically, it'll probably be Nembhard, because Nembhard is he's a better, more agile defender, better on the ball defender. Whereas Nesmith is a guy who is more physical, a little bit bigger body. He can get the job done, but that's why Jalen Brunson's been guarded by Nesmith, is because Nesmith is the more physical defender, and you need to do that to wear down Jalen Brunson, because he's a very physical point guard. You don't get that out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, not nearly as much. Right. So I expect it to be a lot of Andrew Nembhard with a sprinkling of Aaron Nesmith in the next series.
Yeah, and then also too, I think how you guys handle Chet Holmgren as well. Holmgren versus
I have no idea how we're gonna do that. That's why I am not a Hall of Fame coach. I trust Rick Carlisle on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating, but like these people out here that think that like it's going to be a blowout. To me, this feels like a series that can go 6 or 7. Like
I think it goes 6 minimum. Hypothetically speaking, if the Thunder close out tonight, which nothing says that they won't do that, because they were up by like 30 the last time I checked.
Yeah, they're still up by 38 minutes left.
Oh yeah, that one's as good as over.
I want to say in the hockey real quick, Panthers Hurricanes is now tied, so free. So Carolina trying to live to see another day. But in any case,
given hypothetically that the Pacers move on, I expect a potential Oklahoma City versus Indiana finals to go at least 6 games. And if it didn't go 7, I think I would be surprised because the Pacers can beat you in a multitude of ways, and the Pacers can also do the things that make Oklahoma City good. And the reason that they haven't really been tested is there's not another team like that in the West. Again, they remind me a lot of better Cleveland. They are just better Cleveland. And Cleveland got run out of the gym by us. I don't expect Oklahoma City to be run out of the gym, but I definitely think that it's a better matchup than people give credit for. It's going to be a lot closer. Just because they have Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't mean that the Pacers don't have Tyrese Halliburton. The Pacers, still have Pascal Siakam. And Chet Holmgren's going to get a lot of Pascal Siakam, I assume. Maybe Miles Turner. My concern is with Isaiah Hartenstein. That guy was a thorn in my side last year, and Gus and I, briefly touched on it last week. But that guy was a pest, and he is a terrific defender, and Gus can attest to this. Isaiah Hartenstein's a terrific basketball player. He's infuriating to watch because he is a pest. That's who I'm worried about. That's a matchup.
He kind of remind me of less crazy Dennis Rodman. Is that too much?
Hey, I can get behind that because he's a pretty good defender and he inhales rebounds.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be awesome, too. And also just to see people see all the big talking heads, all those sad New Yorkers who are going to watch the Knicks get eliminated and then have to spend their NBA finals traveling between Indianapolis and Oklahoma City is going to be phenomenal.
This Knick fans everywhere, minus Gus, because Gus, this does not apply to you. But so Gus, cover your eyes real quick. This goes out to all the Knicks fans. And that is all.
All right, Stephen A. Smith.
And tell him that I meant it too.
Stephen A. Smith's going to be very, very sad when he has to spend his NBA finals.
Did you guys see what Ben Stiller was tweeting this morning, though?
No, I did not.
So Ben Stiller was mad about what Pat McAfee said at the game last night. So if you guys didn't see this, Pat McAfee introduced all the New York celebrities. It was Spike Lee, Timothy Chalamet, Ben Stiller, and he said, "Let's send these SOBs back with their ears ringing." And then Ben Stiller was mad about it this morning. He was mad and saying, "Oh, well, that would never happen in New York." Like the New York crowd didn't chant "F you, Reggie" the entire series, one rotation of Around the Sun ago. Come on. Get out of here. Come on.
Right.
You can't possibly be that dense. Come on, Ben Stiller.
Pat to come to Game 5.
I hope Pat would do it too, because Pat's somebody, he'll go sit courtside and then they'll boo him and then he'll do this.
Yeah.
He'll antagonize him. See, that's the difference between Pat McAfee and Ben Stiller or Timothy Chalamet or Spike Lee. Although Spike Lee, maybe you could make a case that he would do something like that, but he didn't last night. Pat, 100%. Can't hear you. And he would antagonize the New York crowd, and I'm here for it. I hope he does go to game 5. I hope he does. That would be awesome. That would be pay-per-view level television.
Right. And also, I guess it was on a more personal note, because obviously because you told me this phrase last night. Other kids grew up with cartoons. You grew up with the Pacers. And Indiana, as we all know, like there's no state in this country more obsessed with basketball than Indiana.
That's the truth. And I don't care what people in Kentucky have to say. I'm a part of that too. But it's not like Indiana. It's different. And we joke about it, but we say ball is life. It really is. And so, yeah, my dad died when I was a little kid. And so my mom worked a lot, and I stayed with my mom's parents, my mama and papa. Papa, God rest his soul, took me to a lot of Pacer games. And when we weren't there, we would watch on TV. Channel 44-1 on or 44 on Comcast, and 671.4 on DirecTV, right? Fox Sports Indiana. And we would sit and watch every night. Every single night we would watch the Pacers together that they were on. Very, very rarely would I miss a game. So there's 82 games in a regular season. We're probably watching 75 of them together, the three of us. And that was my entire childhood. And I'd go upstairs. I'd sit in the recliner. Mama'd be in her chair. Papa'd lay down on the couch. Usually Papa or me, one of us would make some popcorn and we'd split it. And that was 70, 75 nights a year, every year. And so most kids are raised on cartoons. I was raised on Reggie Miller, Jermaine O'Neal, and the Indiana Pacers. And so for me, it's special.
Like, what are the vibes like right now in Indiana?
It's as happy as people have been about basketball here in a very long time. Because the Pacers were really good when I was a kid with Reggie Miller, and then the Brawl team at the tail end of Reggie's career, when you had Ron Artest, Jamal Tinsley, Jermaine O'Neal. That team, the Pacers were really good. The Pacers would have won a championship if it weren't for the Brawl. And then that happens, and then the Pacers were just bad for like 10 more years. Really, really bad. And then the Paul George teams, about 2012 to 14, that 3-year run was awesome. But we ran into LeBron and the Heat every single year. And we lost to them all 3 times. And then the Pacers have been lukewarm at best. The bubble run was pretty cool. TJ Warren lit it up in the bubble. But other than that, the Pacers have been pretty mid, since then. But the Pacers have never tanked. The Pacers have never picked number 1. And the Pacers have actually never had a number 1 pick on their roster ever at all, period. Not just didn't draft one, have never had one.
That's actually insane.
The closest that we had is James Wiseman, who was on the end of the bench and got cut this year. He was the number 2 overall pick. He's the closest we've ever gotten. And so this team was built through savvy trades, savvy drafting, and you don't get the star power that way. That's why people ignore the Pacers. But the people here, the people that watch the Pacers, that are invested in the Pacers, the people who wear Indiana across their chest with pride, and the people who say, New York, you can take your Jalen Brunson, or Miami, you can take your LeBron, and you can shove it up your ass because I've got Indiana on my chest. Those people, this is as fun as it's ever been in our lifetimes, for people my age at least. And I've been told that watching Tyrese Halliburton in these playoffs reminds people of Reggie Miller in his prime. This is what it was like to have Reggie Miller in his prime playing for your team, because you are never out of a game. And Tyrese Halliburton reminds a lot of people of Reggie Miller for the same reason, because he's a scrappy underdog that plays into the villain role. He loves being hated, and he's an antagonist. He's somebody, he's just gonna piss you off. He's gonna beat you, and he's gonna mock you while he does it. Like, he hit the Jalen Brunson 3 celebration last night, and he hit the choke before. He hit the Dame time celebration against Milwaukee. He is somebody who that resonates with Indiana.
Like, I'm fully convinced he's a top 5 player in the league right now.
100%. I think when he is on, he's easily a top 5 player in the league, because he's putting up numbers that look like John Stockton. He's putting up numbers that look like Steve Nash. And see, the thing here is people don't give a shit about star power in Indiana. People don't care, because in Indiana, we value playing basketball in a way that's effective, whatever that looks like. So when the Pacers were really good about 10 or 12 years ago, they played elite defense. We were suffocating on defense. That was the only reason we could beat teams, because Lord knows the offense wasn't there. But in Indiana, it's different because we don't care if we have a superstar. We don't care what you think of us. We don't care if we're on TV all the time. We don't care that you have Ben Stiller and Timothy Chalamet and Spike Lee and whoever the hell else sitting courtside. We don't care. We're cool with Pat. Like Pat's our boy,
And this isn't the Dune of Arrakis either. So, which is
Yeah,
where
it's just
Chalamet reigns supreme. But
it's different, and that's the thing that people don't understand. If you are not from Indiana, you didn't grow up here, you're not involved in Indiana culture, it wouldn't resonate. But anybody that you get on this podcast, whether you talk to me or Spencer or Aaron or whoever, anybody that's from Indiana will tell you the same thing. It's
right.
always been us against the world.
And I feel the same way about Tennessee.
Yeah, it's always us against the world. And Indiana's a flyover state. The thing about the NBA is it is the most coastal elitist league in this country. And it's not close. And so the culture war is just insane. And that's what makes it so special. That's what makes this rivalry with the Knicks so special. And Gus, you and I were speaking about this, whether it was last week or maybe the week before. We were speaking about how, culturally speaking, this goes way deeper than basketball. And the people of Indiana may not have the names. They may not have the status. They may not live in the penthouse in Manhattan. But the average Pacers fan, maybe he's a farmer, blue collar worker. Maybe he is.
And I think, Jason, do you think, of course, there's still game 5 to be played, of course, but do you think if Indiana advances, it kind of revenge on that loss in the playoffs in the 1999-2000 season? Because then was the reverse, right? Back then,
as far as I'm concerned, that's behind us. Because the last 3 playoff series have been dominated by the Pacers, and assuming that the Pacers finish this one off as well, I mean the one where the Knicks went to the finals, it's over with. I was a kid. Like, you go ask somebody that's like my parents' age or my grandparents' age, maybe they feel a little bit differently. But
yeah, that's fair, because in the 21st century, I don't remember the Knicks eliminating the Pacers.
No, it's 0-2 in the 21st century, and it was 2013 and then 2024, and then assuming this one goes this way, it'll be 0-3. And it's hard because a lot of the same cultural aspects that make this rivalry so special still exist, and people still feel it. But the history of the rivalry really just doesn't resonate with me like the culture part of it does, if that makes sense. And Gus, I know you are especially in tune to that because that's so prevalent in soccer. And like, you think, the number one, what's the number one most heated derby in the world, Gus? What would you say? Because I've got 2 in my mind, and either one of them work for this comparison.
Celtics and Rangers, because it goes even deeper than sports, because they are the Rangers are Protestant, and the Celtics are Catholic.
This isn't even soccer. I would think of India, Pakistan, and cricket.
Yeah, I mean, you could go there as well. And Gus, I was thinking the Old Firm, which you brought up, or the Super Classico derby in Buenos Aires between
Boca River
and River Plate. Any way you go with it, though, it's so intense. And Nick, you can attest to this also based on the Chattanooga Derby. It's still young, but you were there at the first big game. between CFC and the Red Wolves. It's a
Yeah.
culture war. That's what makes the rivalry so special, is when it
Yeah.
goes beyond sports. And
Oh,
that's what I love. I love that, because when I can wear Indiana on my chest and I can go into Cleveland or I can go into Milwaukee or I can go into wherever and I wear Indiana, everybody knows I'm proud of where I came from. I don't give a shit what you have to say about me, where I come from, or that it's a flyover state or whatever coastal elite bullshit. I'm from Indiana. That's my home. It will always be my home. And if you don't like it, get fucked. Straight up. That's how, Nick, you asked how Pacers fans were feeling right now. That's it. Succinctly, that's it.
Well, officially, Jason, the Oklahoma City Thunder awaits as they win 124-91 over Minnesota. Additionally, the Florida Panthers have scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes, including an empty net. They're up 5-3, and they're about to advance as well. So, OKC, congratulations to them. They're heading to the NBA Finals, where they
but but to your point, Jason, I mean, coming back even to my city, I mean, Rio Branco and União Barbarense, it's it's a city rivalry that goes beyond sports. We make fun. They make fun of us because of shortage of water. We make fun of them because of their sugarcane plantation workers, and and it's just so it goes beyond just 90 minutes on a soccer game. It's a culture war. It's a I wear my Rio Branco jersey, and I'm proud of my city, and that touched me. But and now it's so funny because, for example, if you go to New York and you wear a Pacers jersey, like it might even bug some fans, even after the series over.
Good. I wish I'd have thought to do it when I went last month. I wish I'd
Yeah,
have thought to bring a Pacers jersey. I I didn't think that far ahead. But
right. I mean, it's like when I go in an orange polo to Alabama or Georgia. It's like I'm showing up. I'm walking in your state. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
yeah, and that's what makes sports so special. And the Knicks, as long as they're the Knicks, they're going to be trying to go get star power. They're always going to be semi-relevant. They may not be good enough to win anything, but they'll always be, pretty relevant, and they're going to have some star power somewhere. The Pacers are not that way. The
Right.
Pacers, the Pacers have never paid the luxury tax. The Pacers have never had a number 1 pick even on the roster. And the Pacers are just a well-run team. And that's a breath of fresh air, I think, for the NBA. But this Gen Z approach to basketball and to the NBA is, all these kids grew up watching AAU and crap, and all the superstars team up together. But this new collective bargaining agreement in the NBA has actually been terrific for league parity, and the league is better than it's ever been because of killing off super teams. And nobody wants to see the same finals like 5 years in a row. Nobody wants to see that
Yeah.
outside of those two fan bases. And there's 30 teams. I hate 29 of them to varying degrees. Like, if the Pacers aren't in it, I don't care. And ultimately, these people are too invested in superstar players, watching players, than they are in watching team basketball. And I'm hoping that this Pacers team starts to bring the pendulum back the other way.
100%, and that's what I'm hoping too, because it actually feels like I'm watching basketball again, watching the Pacers, in which the past few years the NBA really didn't feel like it was true basketball. But in any case, Thunder advance. Pacers look to join them tomorrow. We'll see. This time next week, we are talking about Thunder's Pacers NBA Finals officially. I do also want to mention that officially the Florida Panthers are going to their third straight Stanley Cup Finals. They won 5-3 at Carolina. They win that series in 5 as well. And the Oilers as well are a game away in the West. They're up 3-1, and so we could have a rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals looming. To be honest, I really haven't watched any of the West because honestly, those games are all on the same time as the Pacers, Knicks, and the Pacers Knicks have just been too good to look away from. You know,
Yeah, that's a way to put it, Nick. I've been glued to my TV, but my heart has been glued to the TV too.
right?
My heart's been glued to my throat, and Gus, I'm sure you agree with that. So,
because I told you all this last night. This is I've never really understood what it's like to be a casual sports fan, but this makes me feel like just a total casual. It's like I'm not like
listening to us talk about the Pacers
because like this is like because like I'm not like I didn't grow up with them. I'm not a hardcore guy like you guys are. Like I can't name the history, and you guys were like talking about players 20 years ago I've never been heard of. But it's kind of fun just being a low key bandwagon for once.
Welcome to the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gus.
Yeah, the Pacers are just.
But Gus, you are welcome aboard the bandwagon too, whenever you would like.
No, I mean, in this NBA Finals, I'm definitely rooting for Indiana. I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, but I don't. I mean, I see the Indiana Knicks, the Pacers Knicks rivalry as something like a folk, like something that is really charming and really amazing. Of course, I don't have the. I didn't grow up in New York. I mean, I visited a couple of times. I mean, my first NBA game was at Madison Square Garden, so that's why I became a New York Knicks fan. But yeah, I feel like the Indiana Pacers deserve so badly this title. I mean, first of all, I mean, I know Oklahoma City fans are happy and but for all the tradition that basketball has in the United States for almost 100 years, it's time for Indiana Pacers to have an NBA title. It's something that is so like it's just an injustice of all the Pacers history has. I feel like finally has come the time. Like I'm sorry, but Oklahoma, they of course they're proud of their franchise, but they got it from somewhere else. They're originally the Seattle Supersonics, and fine, okay, like you can do it, but
I
like
mean, and two, obviously, I think there's still a lot of angst in Oklahoma over the fact they didn't win a title with KD and Russell Westbrook, and they had James Harden too.
yeah,
All the time when they couldn't pull off
that right there is the reason they don't deserve to win this.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, because like your team that you have now is not as good as that.
But
team.
but did you like that? That thought, that opinion, because I don't see many people talking about how the Pacers are so connected to the history, not only NBA but in basketball with the ABA and all throughout the history throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, the 2010s, and
Oklahoma is a football state too. Like it's not a basketball first state. Like the
no,
Sooners,
it's a football state, straight up.
The Sooners and the Cowboys are the two biggest teams in Oklahoma, and the Cowboys aren't even in Oklahoma. So, if King of the Hill taught me anything.
And whoever plays Texas.
Yes, 100%. Definitely Oklahoma State. Sorry, Mike Gundy. But, yeah, while we have you, Jason, I know your time's running short here. I do want to shift real quick over to college baseball because the tournament is this weekend. And the Tennessee Vols, despite having a down second half of the year, just not a good run of form here, they still get a national seed, which I think is a testament to Tony Vitale and this program that he created.
It definitely is. And the Vols are not getting the national seed based on their record in the back half of the year, unless there was a history that preceded them. And winning the national championship is great, but anybody can win the championship once. It's being consistently really good. And Tony Vitello has had this team consistently in the hunt since 2021. And so this is year 5 of being consistently in the hunt. And so with that said, looking forward, you have Cincinnati, you have who else is in our regional? Cincinnati.
Wake Forest, and guess I actually have it pulled up if you want to pull it up here.
Yeah. Let's take a look here real quick.
So obviously we're in the bottom right quadrant here, the 14 overall seed.
Miami
of Ohio, and then we'll play the Wake Forest Cincinnati on Saturday. And we were talking about this the other day, Jason. You have serious concerns about Wake Forest and Cincinnati.
Yeah, I do. Wake Forest is a team that usually they play really well. They may not overwhelm you with talent, but they usually play a pretty fundamentally sound game of baseball, which is definitely a problem right now for Tennessee. Cincinnati gives me some concerns. I'm worried about Cincinnati. I'm very worried about Wake Forest. Miami of Ohio, we can out-talent them. Cincinnati is a problem because they're kind of a pest team. They remind me, they play kind of like East Tennessee State did when they beat us. They're just a fundamentally sound team that gets timely hits. And that makes me nervous. Wake Forest makes me really nervous, though, because they're fundamentally sound and they have a lot more talent than Cincinnati, especially pitching. Cincinnati's pitching is a little suspect. Wake Forest's pitching is almost always good. And so I think Tennessee still wins the regional, but don't be surprised if Tennessee goes to the losers bracket at some point in this regional.
Right. I don't usually, because basically every time we've hosted a regional, we've swept it every single time.
Oh no! Well, I guess we did. I guess we did because we beat Wright State. That's the only time where we were about to lose.
Right. We've never been taken to Monday to that, to the whole Game 7 deal.
And also, don't be surprised if Marcus Phillips turns a switch and flips a switch and starts pitching lights out. Marcus Phillips can play himself into the first round of the MLB draft with this postseason. Marcus Phillips with a good showing easily can make himself a couple $1 million. So don't be surprised to see him do very well. And also, don't be surprised to see the Vols lock in defensively. Tony Vitello's probably been doing nothing but, preaching defense for the last week since we got back from Hoover.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole key. I mean, it's not even necessarily the pitching that I'm overly concerned about, because I know our pitchers have got talent. It's this simple nonsense that we're doing on defense, the simple missteps. And, they could tell the games where we've been locked in, like last week against Texas in the SEC tournament. The Vols were locked in, and they ended up winning.
Yeah. And you don't have a Xander Sechrist who can be your third guy right now and just chew innings and be a dog. However, there may be somebody that emerges. I don't know who it may be. Maybe it's AJ. Maybe AJ Russell comes in and is able to, provide some spot starts. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's any number of other guys step up. Maybe Teagan takes the step. I don't know. I think that's my primary concern from a roster construction standpoint, is I'm not sure who that third guy is going to be, because I think Marcus will be fine, especially considering what the opportunity is in front of him for this year's draft. And then obviously Liam is Liam. He's going to do his thing.
At the very least, I don't think we should have a lot of pressure on this year, because we just won the title. At least as a pro.
It's complete opposite in my view. I think the most pressure is on Tennessee, because this team should be better, and losing a bunch of series in a row, even closely, that's still, you're going to have a target on your back. And now looking down to the Fayetteville Regional, who theoretically the Vols would match up with, Arkansas is going to run through this. North Dakota State's a pest team. I remember they took Louisiana State. I think they took Louisiana State to extras early in the year. Creighton's okay. Kansas is okay. Arkansas is going to run through that one. And in a theoretical matchup between Tennessee and Arkansas, I would take Tennessee. I honestly would. And
That would be just cinema.
If that happened, it would be cinema. I think I would be surprised because I can sit here and say on paper I think we match up well with them, but actually having it happen would be a different story.
And the thing about that series too, all the pressure's on Arkansas. If it's Tennessee,
100%.
like they would be at home.
And they've never won a College World Series. Never forget they got an empty trophy case down there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Dave Van Horn, where's your ring? Got nothing. You have as many rings as me in college baseball, Dave.
Twitter trash talk would be legendary.
100%.
It would be unreal. Just real quickly, just look at some of the other ones. What do we think about these?
Let's rapid fire pick. Let's rapid fire pick, and I'll tell you who my Omaha 8 are.
Okay, so Baton Rouge and Clemson
LSU,
here.
Easy.
Yeah,
LSU easy. Don't even have to talk about it. West Virginia, I actually like in the Clemson regional. I don't know if they win it, but West Virginia is going to be tough. I think I'll take Clemson, but West Virginia, don't be surprised. And then theoretically, if it's LSU versus Clemson, give me LSU. I think LSU is the second best team in the country right now behind Florida State.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would take West Virginia. I think Clemson's PVU when it comes to baseball.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I like West Virginia. I like what they're doing. They're tough. Dallas Baptist also, they will give LSU some tough games, but Dallas Baptist is not going to be able to beat LSU.
Yeah, so I'll take LSU out of that quadrant. All right, the Oxford and Athens regions up here.
I like Duke and Georgia Tech in these. Ole Miss, PVU, Georgia, definitely PVU. Duke and Georgia Tech play in the ACC, and the ACC is a very underrated baseball conference. Ask me how I know. Georgia Tech has been playing the best baseball that they've ever played in the last month and a half or so. And then Duke is always just hanging around. They are one of those teams that just hangs around. That said, though, I don't know who would host if they both won. But I
mean, both Durham and Atlanta have an Applebee's. So,
oh, geez. Yeah, I would take, just in a vacuum, I would take Georgia Tech to go to Omaha from there.
I'm going to actually go clean old-fashioned out here. Georgia Tech, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree with Nick.
So we're all fading Ole Miss, which means Ole Miss is going to win their second College World Series in 4 years.
Not with Mike Bianco. Sorry.
All right, we have Longhorn, we have Austin and Los Angeles. I'm going to be honest here. If Texas doesn't advance out of that 8, something. Well, I mean, UC Irvine's pretty good. I think it's going to be UC Irvine at Texas in the Supers.
I think UC Irvine will provide some fits for UCLA. I think UCLA pulls it out, and Texas is going to just mop the floor with anybody. So give me Texas.
Yeah, I was looking up their stadium. Their stadium only has like 1,500 people. So, but I bet they have an Applebee's nearby.
If you know, you know.
Okay, Nashville. This is where Louisville's at. They got paired with the #1 overall seed in Vandy, who's just went through Hoover last week.
I mean, their last loss may have been to Louisville, to be honest. I don't know that, but Louisville's the last team that I know for sure beat them. So in the Hattiesburg Regional, give me Southern Miss. It's not really a testament to them. I think they're fine, but I think that regional is just a really good draw. Give me Southern Miss against Alabama for that one, but I think Southern Miss pulls it out. I actually like Louisville to win the Nashville regional also. Vanderbilt's beatable, and Louisville has done it. Tim Corbin and Dan McDonnell have a history, and Dan McDonnell does very well against Tim Corbin. So never count out Louisville. Would not be the first time that they've gone to Nashville and won a regional. Give me Southern Miss and the Cards in that one. That
would be so funny. Of course, Louisville to go into Hattiesburg would be interesting.
Yeah, I would take Southern Miss to beat Louisville. Louisville should win, but they won't. That just screams Louisville gives it away to me.
Well, at least if they did lose, they would be able to enjoy the Applebee's. I'm actually going to go. This is going to come off as total SEC homer here. I'm going to go Alabama Vandy in this for that super regional, and I probably would pick Vandy to win. Although ETSU is a scary team.
ETSU is a tough draw. Wright State, also a tough draw. Nashville's regional is the toughest in the country. Vanderbilt got screwed in their draw, honestly. That's a terrible draw for the number 1 overall seed.
All right. We have this is Tallahassee and Corvallis.
Yeah, you don't even have to talk about these. Florida State, Oregon State, both of them don't lose.
I'll say the Northeastern though has won like I think 30 games in a row or something.
Don't care. Florida State's way better. Florida State, Oregon State, and give me Florida State to go to the College World Series. They're the best team in the country right now for me.
I would agree with that. Chapel Hill and Eugene.
I don't like any of these teams in Chapel Hill, but somebody's got to win. So give me UNC, I guess. Same thing with Eugene. I don't like any of these teams. I'd probably go UNC versus Oregon just because they got more talent than everybody else. But whoever comes out of that's getting swept in Omaha. UNC being number 5 is just asinine. But I guess give me UNC because they'll be hosting.
You know, Arizona, they found some life last week in the Big 12 tournament. Give me Arizona at North Carolina. And actually, you know what? Give me Arizona to the College World Series. There's always that one team, it seems like.
That'd be a hell of a rebound after losing their coach to LSU.
Yeah. And then the last quadrant here got Conway, South Carolina, and Auburn. Coastal Carolina got screwed on this draw so bad.
Yeah, they have 2 really, really tough opponents in Florida and East Carolina. Coastal is good. Florida's better. Florida's going to win that, and it's not anything against Coastal. Florida's just that much better. The fact Florida didn't get a national seed is, I mean, I would rather Tennessee have it than them, but I think Florida goes in and beats them. And then let's see, is that Stetson at the bottom? I can't see for the thing. Okay, so Auburn, they're okay. Give me North Carolina State in this one too. I like NC State to beat Auburn. NC State's coached really well. Auburn, they're very hit and miss. And then give me Florida to go to the College World Series.
Yeah, NC State has a history too. And NC State, Florida would be interesting to see who they decide. I'm going to take Florida too to make it. So I guess I have Florida, Arizona, Florida State, Vandy, Texas. I don't think I picked a winner. I'm going to go Georgia, LSU, and until they prove me wrong in the postseason, I'm taking the Vols. Why not?
Yeah, I've got LSU, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia Tech, Southern Miss, Florida State, North Carolina, and Florida. That's my Omaha 8. And then, and assuming I'm picking from those, I don't know how the bracket looks. I wrote mine out of order. The 2 best teams in the country for me are Texas and Florida State. So give me that matchup. I think Florida State wins it this year.
Yeah, because it'd be Texas versus Georgia. I'd take Texas in that. It'd be LSU versus Tennessee. I'm going to have to go LSU there. And then, it'd be Tennessee versus Georgia in a loser's bracket. I'll take Tennessee. LSU versus Texas. Give me LSU initially, actually. Then it'll be Texas versus Tennessee in a do or die. Give me Texas. And then can Texas beat LSU 2 times in a row? No, actually, I'm going to go LSU on that side. And then Florida State versus Vandy. Man, that would be a heck of a game, wouldn't it? Florida State versus Vandy in Omaha. I'm going to go I'll go Florida State. Then Arizona versus Florida. Give me Florida. And then Arizona versus Vandy. Florida versus Florida State. Florida State. So then Vandy versus Florida. Vandy beats Florida. Then can Vandy come back and beat Florida State 2 times? I think Vandy beats them once, and you get to a do or die with Vandy, Florida State. Give me Vandy. Actually,
Wrong answer.
Vanderbilt, LSU, College World Series. Give me LSU in 3.
All right. Well, Gus, you got picks? Let's hear them.
I mean, I'll follow you guys because, to be honest, I haven't watched much college baseball recently. So
You're not
I,
missing much. You're really not. The
Yeah.
Vols
but
have been
but
disappointing.
yeah, I was gonna say about the Vols. I feel like but they were so intense last season, and they were, uh, and of course the title were so um, amazing. It's okay. I mean, if the down year is making the NCAA tournament, I
As
mean,
a national seed, no less.
yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, doing that would be a great season for the Tennessee baseball. Like, think about that. 10 years ago, it would have been a good. It would be really good. And now we're thinking about a down year.
Can I make one statement here really quick? This is the one and only time I will ever be saying this ever in any circumstance.
Whoa!
Thank you, John Curry. And
Wow,
with
that's
that,
crazy.
I will be leaving. Thanks for letting me crash the pod, y'all. I appreciate
Be-
y'all.
Absolutely.
before you go, I want to talk about a little bit about the Indy 11 on Knox game you guys been.
Indy 11 played like shit, didn't deserve to win, pulled it out because we scored a Galazzo. Indy 11
That's
played
soccer. That's soccer.
Indy
You
11 played
describe
like
soccer.
dog shit tonight too. Went up 1-0 on Hartford, who is a bottom of the table team in the USL Championship. Went up 1-0 early, then went down 3-1, went up 4-3, and then managed to not win. It is what it is.
Whoa,
Indy 11's infuriating.
Right.
whoa,
This if I was a drinker, I'd be an alcoholic. So
whoa.
Indy 11 Indy 11 would turn me into an alcoholic if I drank alcohol. So
Right. Apparently, the only way you can enjoy BYB games now is if you have no idea what's going on, like me.
yeah, honestly. So yeah, Indy 11's bad. Hopefully we turn it around. That's
Yeah.
the update, Gus. The ballpark was cool though. The pitch
Yeah,
was terrible.
and I'll definitely talk more about that a little bit later on in the broadcast. Also, real quick, Jason, do you think that what do you give our softball team's chances in OKC of doing much of something?
Look, you got Carlin Pickens, you got a chance. Straight up, that's as easy as it gets. I haven't looked at the Oklahoma City bracket yet, but
Well,
the Vols have as good a chance to beat anybody as anybody. Remember, we beat Texas and Oklahoma this year on the road both times.
right.
We
And
won
we're
both
gonna
series.
beat Oklahoma again tomorrow. And
Yeah, I don't like our chances to beat them another time. However, you got Carlin Pickens, you got a chance. So if there was ever any doubt that there's going to be a competitive series, fear not, it will be competitive.
yeah. Well, Jason, thanks for hopping on as always. And
Thanks for not getting too mad that I crashed it when I heard you guys were talking basketball.
yes.
Oh.
Yes. Always a good time.
For sure. I'll talk to y'all later.
Absolutely. And that's Jason Wyrick from Indiana, home of probably the Eastern Conference champions here within the next couple of days. But I do want to circle back around to what we were just talking about, the softball team. Shout out, congratulations to them for making the Women's College World Series. And they really had a gut check because they lost game 1 to Nebraska at home. They had to come back and win games 2 and 3 behind just an incredible performance from Carlin Pickens, who set a world record again. She broke the world record earlier this year and then beat her own record again for the fastest softball pitch at like 79.4 miles per hour, which in baseball equivalent would be 111 miles per hour. And they won 1-0 on Sunday thanks to an Ella Dodge homer that bounced off the top of the wall. So the Tennessee softball team now is going to go to Oklahoma, 7 versus 2. Carlin Pickens, she had a complete game, only gave up 2 hits, no runs, just incredible. But man, beating Oklahoma in Oklahoma City, a team that is a dynasty, I'll see it when I believe it, Gus, in
Yeah.
the World Series. But hey, Carlin Pickens is as good of a shot as you're going to have, right? So can we have the offense? Our offense, to me, and obviously I'm no softball expert, so I'll just go. I don't fancy myself as a college baseball expert either. I really don't fancy myself as a softball expert. But to me, we're going to have to score some runs. We can't expect Carlin Pickens to shut out everyone we play. Like, that's just not possible. So we're gonna have to get some run support for her.
Yeah, I feel like that's you hit the nail on the head. I think that's what the roads need to like kind of is, and I feel like yeah, it that you said it all.
Right. Real quick. So I know I mentioned the Panthers winning the East. Yeah, I haven't really watched much of the Oilers. Panthers Oilers second straight year in a row, probably, unless unless Edmonton somehow blows a 3-1 lead to the Dallas Stars. Um, do we think the Panthers are going to go back to back? Because they've just been a machine in this postseason, especially from the time they took out Toronto in Game 7, ran through
Do,
the Hurricanes.
do you think one of the factors that they are, in this kind of somewhat dynasty that a lot of Canadians don't understand, like how can a state that don't even have ice is called the Sunshine State that you know probably has hockey as the number 4 or even number 5 sport in the state, has a franchise who's been dominating at least the Eastern Conference. Like, do you think the factor is that they don't play with pressure, they don't have that mantra that we have to win?
I
Or
think so,
maybe
100%, right? Like you get to go, you make a lot of money playing hockey, but then you get to live in Miami. You get to live in South Florida. It's like you get to enjoy the beach and stuff. You get to enjoy pools and palm trees, but then you also get to play a winter sport as well. You can't do that in Edmonton. You can't do that in Toronto. You can't do that in Winnipeg or Montreal or Ottawa or Vancouver. Like you just can't. Like Miami is just a much prettier, warmer place than any of those places. And you also get to keep more of your money because it's much lower taxes. Like
yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
and no, and of course, in one of those factors is that Canadian teams feel like every year they have that. Oh, it plays into their psychological effect. Like, oh, a Canadian team had not won the Stanley Cup in more than 30 years. Like, when is gonna end? When is gonna end? When is gonna end?
Right. And like obviously you're assuming the Oilers win. I mean, all the pressure in this series is on the Oilers because it's
Yeah,
Edmonton, it's the former team of Wayne Gretzky, you have Connor McDavid. Like you are the Canadian team. Like
yeah.
you find a way to get this thing done versus
Like,
a Florida Panthers team that's an absolute like dynasty right now. This is their third straight Stanley Cup Finals.
and I'll say this: I think that's the biggest curse in sports history because we always talk about curses of one franchises. That's a multi-franchise curse. Like,
Absolutely.
it's not. We're talking. There's not like one or two. Like, there's five. Like you mentioned, or five. Edmonton, Ottawa, Vancouver, Toronto, and Winnipeg. Five different franchises that one year or the other are good, but they're never able to bring the trophy back to a country that breathes the sport for
Yeah.
30 years.
So it'll be interesting to see if Edmonton can be that team. First, they got to win the West. Though they're up 3-1, and Dallas is a good team. Here, I guess I can just wrap back around real quick to Indy 11 when knocks that. See, of course, went to it with Jason. Definitely, I could tell the Indy 11 folks are not happy with their team right now at all. I got that sense real quickly hanging out with them. I mean, I had a good time watching them play, although I'll say this in terms of the play on the field, it wasn't good. I could tell because, like, to me, Indy 11 was dominating possession, but they could not finish goals to save their lives at all. And I'm no soccer guy. I can't really explain that, but
Yeah, unfortunately, I was unable to watch to give my impression, but as I said, Jason, an ugly win is a win.
yeah, I
I,
don't
I,
know.
and
Clearly,
I'm gonna talk about ugly win that does not necessarily need to be ugly, but if it got the job done.
so I'll tell you what was not ugly though is Covenant Health Park. That is a gorgeous stadium in East Knoxville. I had a chance to go walk around it. And to me, this was kind of a field trip, right? And it came at a great time because Thursday and Friday last week, my stories on both of those days were about the South Broad Stadium that I've talked about ad nauseum on here as it's being constructed. It is under construction right now on the south side of Chattanooga, and it officially has its name, Gus. is going to be called Erlanger Field, named after the largest hospital here in Chattanooga. Not without its controversy. Let's just say our local county mayor was not too big of a fan of that. He came out and blasted, saying that like the local hospital should be spending more on improving their quality of care, and questioned, just why this was an investment, and basically called the new stadium a drain on the community's resources. That's a literal quote from his press release. So
Oh,
it's interesting because, when I went up to Knoxville, one of the things I'm looking at is like how it's affecting the local community, right? And the Covenant Health Park is in the old city of Knoxville. And I'll tell you what, just walking around that neighborhood, that area feels so much more alive now. Like that area just is buzzing. With that stadium, it feels complete. Because in the old days, right, the old city, like once you passed James White Parkway, I mean, it was just over and you entered dilapidated lands. But with the stadium, it feels like a fully complete and a realized area. And it's only going to do more for the other side. Now, the issue with Chattanooga is the South Broad District really isn't like that, right? Like my news station, News 12, is down in the South Broad District, about 6 or 7 blocks away from where the stadium's going to be. We don't really have any nightlife there. We have a handful of restaurants, but the stadium itself and there's going to have to be a lot of development around it, and you're inventing a new district with this stadium. So it's not like placing a baseball stadium into an already existing hub of activity like Knoxville. Chattanooga is there's definitely a lot more rolling of the dice to me when it comes to what Chattanooga is doing versus what Knoxville did. And of course, obviously the funding, right? Like Randy Boyd put up probably a lot more of his money versus what the Lookouts have done. And Randy Boyd's a much more, I feel like, respected name in terms of getting this off the ground. And really, they really needed to do that because let's be real, having the stadium 20 miles outside of the city just never made sense. I never understood that.
I did, because it was the perfect location in between the people who, the Knoxvillians, but also they wanted to get the people who are in the Smoky Mountains for tourism. I always.
I mean, you can say that, but like when I'm on a vacation somewhere, like I don't think, oh, I want to go watch the local minor league baseball team. Like that's just not something I do. I mean, honestly, like if I wasn't going up to watch Indy 11 with Jason, like I probably wouldn't have just randomly gone to a Covenant Health Park game, Like I'm not going to go randomly to a Tennessee Smokies game in Knoxville. But if I were a UT student, I would have definitely have gone to some games with them being in Knoxville. Like I never went to a game in Surreal because why would I go 30 minutes to go watch a minor league game?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I had really good memories at Smokies Stadium. I covered there for basically 4 years, basically 3 years, and I even worked there as a cameraman. So I had so many memories. Hopefully, one day I'll be able to visit the new stadium. But from what you show me, if it looks good, and hopefully they bring a trophy sooner because they deserve it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, obviously the whole dual soccer thing, it looks weird, looks off, but like the field I thought held up decently well. Now, I mean, it was definitely messed up at the end, but I was impressed with what I saw. So it makes me excited for what Erlanger Field can be here in Chattanooga. But there's going to have to be a lot more work for, I think, Erlanger Field to have the same impact here in Chattanooga as what Covenant Health Park is having in Knoxville. And it's going to be a lot more expensive in Chattanooga, I think, ultimately to get the same result. Although I will also put this caveat in. There's other developments going on around Chattanooga as well simultaneously that can jumpstart that boost as well. So just a lot of stuff going on across Chattanooga. All right, let's go into some college football here because this whole situation with the SEC right now is very, very interesting. So Greg Sankey basically said the other day that some of the threats that he feels like he's feeling for some of the other conferences, uh, he feels are completely unbounded. He thinks that these other conferences are like, oh, we're not going to go to a certain type of playoff model because we're not going to let the SEC run everything. Is just he's not going to do that. I mean, it's just like that quote. I have people in my room asking, "Why are we still in the NCAA?"
I mean, if the NCAA could, what they would do is to completely make college football out of their jurisdiction. They'd be like, fine, you guys do whatever you want. Because what they really care about, what they put the brand on, what they embrace is basketball. Look how promotions for the March Madness is so different from the college football playoffs. Like in college basketball, you see NCAA logos, NCAA promotions all over. But it comes to the postseason in football, in college, no, like really, really minuscule.
Right, and there's just all kinds of stuff going on right now at the SEC, right? Like, they're discussing should they go to 9 football games, but he's also like, well, you look at the current college football playoff format. It seems like the committee rewards teams for not losing more than winning quality games. Is
Yeah.
one thing he pointed out, which I agree with. Like one loss Indiana, one loss SMU last year did not have better resumes than 9-3 Alabama, or 9-3 Ole Miss, or 9-3 South Carolina. They just didn't. But they got into the playoffs anyway because they had 2 less losses.
Yeah.
So when you look at, there's basically 2 different playoff formats. So first and foremost, I don't think we even discussed this last episode. So we've had a proper reseeding now of the current 12-team playoff. So it's going to be just based off of rankings. It's still going to be 5 conference champions and 7 at largest, but it's going to be all based off rankings. So now what this does is for Notre Dame, for example, they can have a bye. So that whole independent thing doesn't really matter anymore. But you could have multiple SEC teams get buys or multiple Big Ten teams get buys. And what this does to me is really screws over the ACC and Big 12 because they no longer have basically a guaranteed bye. Although the ACC didn't get that bye last year because Boise State got that bye. But the fact that Boise State and Arizona State got buys last year when teams like Texas and Ohio State and Penn State didn't was unfair. Because not all conferences are built the same.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like they fixed the only thing that was flawed. I think it gave the proper value to the regular season, and they're going on the right track.
Yeah. Now, I will point out this. So, if that format were in use last year, Tennessee would have hosted a playoff game against SMU instead of going to Ohio State, which certainly would have been a much more likely win for Tennessee in that scenario.
Yeah, but the ifs are like the ifs doesn't go on the field. Tennessee play what was determined.
Right, exactly. And honestly, because I was saying about this, guys, and I was talking about this the other day with someone. Yeah, in a cosmic sense, this playoff format being messed up last year may have been for the best, and here's why. Because if Tennessee plays SMU and wins, they likely go and play number 2 Georgia in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day, where obviously they had a massive tragedy. In that terrorist attack, remember that game got pushed back.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about that, wondering about that, is there an alternate universe where Tennessee is in the Sugar Bowl and perhaps myself and some friends are down in New Orleans during that?
Yeah,
I
You
mean,
in the back of my mind, you think about that.
yeah, it was kind of trippy the other day thinking about it, and maybe that's the reason why the playoff format had to be messed up last year, just from a
Mm.
from a from the from a
I got a personal point.
yeah. Obviously, that's just me speculating, but I don't know. I was just thinking about that the other day, and I guess God had that in my soul. So it's very it's interesting to think how little decisions like that change. There's really two different ways we could have been in New Orleans last year too. By the way, I think you had that, and then what if Nico doesn't run out of bounds at Arkansas, and we somehow win that game? And then if you change the Arkansas result, the only thing you change is Arkansas last year. Tennessee goes to the SEC title despite losing at Georgia, and then who knows what happens Tennessee versus Texas. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Texas probably wins, but I don't know. Tennessee pulls off that win somehow. They're in the Sugar Bowl. So, but there are two paths that Tennessee probably should have been in New Orleans that day, and they weren't. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cosmic to me. Yeah. Okay, real quick. So, in terms of the possible reseeding, which one do you prefer, Gus? Do you prefer the Big Ten gets 4 automatic, SEC gets 4 automatic, the AC and Big 12 get 2 automatics each, and then the rest are automatic qualifiers with 1 G5? Or do you prefer the top 5 conferences get a bid and then the top 11 are automatic qualifiers?
For me, it should be one. I mean, the best goes in, no matter what conference.
I would agree. And I think 5 plus 11 would do that.
Yeah, 5 plus 11 do
4
that.
plus 2 plus 2. Like, that's just too damn complicated. Like give me the best 16, even if that's 6 or 7 SEC teams. And that might devalue the regular season, but that's kind of where we are. Also, Greg Sankey, he floated today talking about going to international games. Don't do it. Terrible, terrible idea. Do not do that.
I mean, I know it's crazy and it's really far out, and I don't know if they'll be the appealing of, but I mean, having a college football game here in Brazil, oh my god, a dream.
I mean, it would
Then
be amazing in terms of that. But these college football games for a city like Knoxville, or for like Clemson, or Oxford, Mississippi, or Tuscaloosa, these games are too important to the local economy. Like you can
yeah,
take it away from Philadelphia, and the economy will be fine. Or take a game away from New York City, and it'll be
yeah, that's fair.
like you could take away a game from Nashville, it'll be fine. Taking away a game from Knoxville would be devastating. Taking away a game from Athens, Georgia would be devastating, or Gainesville, Florida. It's not a good idea. Last things I want to go over are racing related, because this past Sunday was an amazing racing day. The Indy 500 was nuts. We had crashes starting in the pre-race, Scott McLaughlin just crashing into the wall in the pace lap. I've never seen that before. And the race was a wreck fest. And partially you can blame that on the cold weather, very cold weather that time of year. Alex Palou came out with the win there in the Indianapolis 500. I will say this, the Fox broadcast, not very good. I've complained about NASCAR, Fox's NASCAR coverage. Their IndyCar coverage was not much better. The commentators were good, but the production stuff just made no sense. But on the NASCAR side of things, this was the first ever race on streaming with Amazon Prime. It's one of the best broadcasts I've ever seen in racing. It was amazing. And it was a great race. It was the best race of the season by far. Maybe the best race I've seen in NASCAR in 2 to 3 years, at least. And Ross Chastain came out of nowhere and ended up winning that race. And it was a solid, it was a national race. It was green the last 100 laps. It was fantastic. Ross Chastain came back to upset William Byron. And it just goes to show to me that Amazon Prime is truly the future. They actually had an hour post-race show, which we haven't seen in NASCAR in years. It actually felt like they took NASCAR seriously. It wasn't a complete joke like you see on Fox. It was great. Phenomenal. Shout out to Amazon. I hate they only have 4 more races. However, I'll tell you the day that it really didn't go well for, though, is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson it was an absolute disaster. He tried to run both Indy and Charlotte. He crashed halfway through the 500, wrecked himself, and then went to the Coca-Cola 600. He was in the lead early. He spun out, tried to come back through the field, and then got caught up in another wreck. And he just looked dejected. I don't think he's ever going to try this again, at least not anytime soon, because there's so much money, so much logistics. Like, you have to be done in Indianapolis by a certain time to get to Charlotte, and like it can all end on one corner, like it did in two different races. And it's such a rare feat to pull off. And I get why a guy like Carl Larson wants to do it, but I don't think you're going to see him do it, or see really anyone else do it anytime soon. I don't know. Anytime soon, fully complete the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day and go 1,100 miles.
Yeah, I think that was an epic win as well by Ross Chastain. That true, and what a crazy win by Alex. What a weekend of race. I mean, Memorial Day. That's why Memorial Day is really a racing kind of weekend. I mean, I feel like that was a holiday for racing.
Like, I think Memorial Day is like a super underrated holiday for sports in general. With the NBA playoffs, the NHL, and normally you have Champions League on this weekend. Of course, Champions League is this weekend. And as we transition to Brazil, Gus, just real quick, who do you have between Inter Milan and I believe it's
PSG.
PSG? Who do you have in that match?
Finally, the French celebrated. Give me PSG. They're in a complete mindset. Inter Milan just lost the Italian title to Napoli. I think that can play an effect. So give me Paris Saint-Germain.
I mean, PSG definitely has been more solid, but there was some magic in that Real Madrid match. I mean, that was like one of the best pair of soccer matches.
Barcelona, Inter Milan, Barcelona.
I can't remember which one. I can't remember which one it was. There was some magic there. Give me Milan. I believe in Inter.
Yeah, I think, and it will be funny because if PSG wins, it will be the ultimate end of super teams in Europe, because PSG had Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, couldn't get it done. It can't even came close, and now they're gonna win without it. So
exactly, it's funny that we're seeing the same trend in European soccer that we are in the NBA with.
Yeah, literally.
Stars.
Yeah, literally.
But anyway, Gus, what's going on down in Brazil? I was going to rant about the U.S. men's team, but whatever. I don't really care at this point. It's the Gold Cup. They clearly don't care, so why should I?
Yeah.
Even though it's their last chance to get ready for the 2026, World Cup or whatever.
So one of our viewers, Claudio, just says it all. Palmeiras undefeated in the Libertadores, 6 games, 6 wins, 6-0 at home. Last game of Esteban at home, as he gonna transfer to Chelsea in the summer. Palmeiras is the number 1 seed in Libertadores, but in the playoffs there's gonna be a draw. But the real question was Flamengo, because Flamengo needed to win, and everybody was like, "Oh, they're gonna get it done easy. It's against a Venezuelan team, Deportivo Táchira, that is already eliminated. Oh, they're gonna win easy, 3 or 4-0. That was not the case. It was a 1-0. Of course, beautiful goal by Léo Pereira on the cross, but it's Flamengo fans left the stadium happy they got into the playoffs, but asking, I mean, aren't we supposed to destroy Táchira? I mean, do we have the best team in South America? But they got in, and that's what matters. And who didn't got in? Corinthians. I mean, they went to a kind of like some starters, some reserves to Argentina, and they ended up losing 1-0. It was funny that they were getting in, even they were losing, because América de Cali was losing up until the 96th minute. Then they got the draw, and they got in, and Corinthians is eliminated at Sul-Americana. But that wasn't even the worst news of their week, because Augusto Melo was impeached of his presidential duties of Corinthians. Yes, Nick, Soccer team in Brazil president can be impeached, and Augusto Melo was impeached. Osmar Stabile is the acting president of Corinthians. I don't know what's going to be, if they're going to be an election or
Oh
he's going to
yeah,
stay.
like when you get impeached, they have to then vote to remove you, or is it just you're automatically gone?
He is gone. Like he's not calling the shots. Like Osmar Stabile is the acting president, but I don't know if he's gonna be the acting president until the Augusto Melo's term was supposed to finish. Are they gonna set up new elections? Like that's something I don't know, but I would imagine he's gonna stay until the end of the term that was originally for Augusto Melo. And I mean, it was inevitable. I mean, police investigating sponsorship deals that was supposedly money for Corinthians, but it was like deviate, like you know, used for criminal purpose. So a lot of indictments. So he had to go. Um, Sad because he symbolized a new era of Corinthians after the same political group ran Corinthians for 17 years, and then he came in with a new set of hope. He ended up not delivering. Of course, he got a title, the state championship. It kind of meant because Corinthians had not won since 2019 a title. Okay, he's gonna have their history, but I feel like he got overwhelmed and he didn't know how to act as a president. So I feel like it was uh, he had seen that coming. So Corinthians not in a good moment right now, and eliminated from international competition, and with a new president, things are about to get a little shaky. But Palmeiras got in, São Paulo got in as well to the playoffs of Libertadores, and Santos finally won a game in the Brazilian Championship, and Neymar uh, was put in the second half, and he wasn't called by Carlo Ancelotti on the two games of the FIFA World Cup qualifier games. But I mean, he's still getting back after an injury took him for almost 2 months, and I feel like he's gonna get back to the Brazilian national team, but he needs to show that he can be a good player for Santos, and then he's gonna go back to the national team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for as we've been talking about, right, when it comes to the Brazilian national team, they're trying to get back to the top of the heap, and it just seems like when it comes to Neymar, that he's going to be that old wily veteran.
Yeah, he
At this
definitely is gonna go. He's going for his last World Cup, so he's gonna try to at least administer his injuries and try to, you know, be on his top and near the World Cup because he knows that's his last chance of winning a Libertador, of winning the World Cup. That's it. That's his last World Cup.
Yeah, but it's going to get more and more exciting as we get closer and closer, and soon we'll have some Club World Cup to talk about as well. As the summer of soccer certainly begins to heat on up, but I think that is all the time that we have for Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports here on a very active late May. We are heading into summer in North America and winter in South America, but it's always sunny here on the only American and Brazilian sports podcast. Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports. You guys have a fantastic week.
Uh, I guess we're out.
Yeah. All
Sounds
right.
good.
See ya. Have a
See ya.
good one.
Have a good one.